I never imagined that a girl with no shoes would win the chance of a lifetime. The sun blazed down, beating on my back like a relentless drum, but I didn't feel the heat. All I felt was the thrill of the moment. I stood there barefoot while the crowd surged like an ocean wave around me. My heart pounded in my chest as I fought against the fear creeping up my throat. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. I glanced down at my feet, rough and callous from years of wandering the streets. No shoes, no protection. But it had always been this way for me. My name is Lily, and I was just a girl from the back alleys with no fortune or fame. An outsider, invisible to most. But now, here I was standing under the spotlights, in front of judges who held the power to change everything. The excitement in the air was electric. It buzzed through me, mixing with the sweet smell of popcorn and the sharp scent of sweat. My best friend Mia, with her bright smile and unwavering belief in me, stood at the edge of the stage. I could see her cheering, her arms raised high, her eyes sparkling with hope. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake off the dread curling in my stomach. What if I failed? Taking a deep breath, I remembered what had brought me here. My family. My little brother Danny, with his big dreams hidden beneath layers of despair. Our home was a crumbling shadow of what it used to be, filled with broken whispers of what could have been. I had to fight for him. For us. I believe in you, Mia shouted, and her voice sliced through my fear. I could see the sway of the crowd's attention turning towards me. Suspense thick in the air. I was trembling now, nerves and excitement battling within me. This was the moment. I stepped forward. It felt like my heart was leaping out of my chest. There was no going back. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, a loud crack echoed through the venue. The lights flickered ominously, casting shadows across the stage. The audience gasped, an uncomfortable wave of uncertainty rippling through the crowd. Was it just me? Or did the atmosphere shift instantly? Whispers fluttered like leaves caught in a gale. Faces turned pale as the reality of something offset in motion pulled the tension tight. My heart raced as I locked my eyes on the judges, their expressions now a mix of intrigue and caution. What did they see? I thought back to the flyer that had promised this competition would change lives. But was it alive with possibility? Or was it hiding something darker? People began to murmur, their excitement waning into doubt and anxiety. What happened next in this moment would change the course of my life forever. I felt the weight of their expectation, the pressure to be more than just Lily, the girl who had always worn her sadness on her sleeve. And then in the vulnerable silence, I heard a voice cut sharply through the uncertainty. What are you hiding? The question hung there, heavy with implications. I froze, caught between the weight of truth and the need to shield my secret. Who I was and everything I had endured swirled in that moment, unspoken yet palpable. I couldn't take a step back now. Something was about to break. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence stretched out, like an old wound refusing to heal. What are you hiding? Echoed in my mind, a weighty challenge I wasn't ready to confront. The voice came from a judge, a woman with sharp features that could pierce through walls, her gaze unblinking as she sought the truth that hid beneath the surface. I felt exposed, the rawness of my life bleeding into the electric air around me. I swallowed hard, searching for words that would bridge the gap between me and this moment. My past loomed like an unseen monster, threatening to derail me just when I thought I had finally found a path to victory. What could I say? I had fought battles invisible to most, braving storms that rend the soul. But here under the spotlight, all that tangled anguish suddenly felt like a prison. With the audience waiting, even the buzz of anticipation morphed into a collective breath held tight against the chest. Nothing, I finally managed to mumble, the denial barely a whisper against my racing heart. I stepped back, overwhelmed by the fear of exposing my vulnerabilities. The truth was, I had always been the girl who didn't fit in, the one whose soles were worn by the grit of a life that forced me to be tougher than I ever wanted to be. MIA's encouraging smile faltered briefly. I caught a flash of worry in her eyes, but she quickly masked it with an encouraging nod. A flicker of support coursed through me. That energy wrapped around my heart, anchoring me as the weight of expectation bore down. I didn't want to let her down. She had believed in me more than I believed in myself. Just a girl who dreams too big, I added, a desperate attempt to reclaim the narrative. But inside, the contradiction gnawed at me. My dream stretched far beyond the stars. It wasn't the dream that threatened to crush me. It was the reality that seemed determined to snuff it out before I could even grasp it. Interesting, the same judge said, tilting her head like she was deciding whether to believe me or challenge me. But dreams often come with shadows. You can't hide behind them forever, Lily. The way she spoke it, so resolute yet compassionate, made something inside me flicker. Was anyone ever truly seen? The fear settled warmly within my chest, conflicting with the determination sparking inside me anew. The shadows she spoke of were mine, making me who I was, yet they could very well suffocate me if I let them win. As I stood there, every heartbeat pounded a rhythm of rebellion within me. I could feel MIA's belief in me wrapping around my fragile courage, building a foundation that refused to crumble under scrutiny. Perhaps it was time to peel back the layers just enough to show them who I was deep down where even I feared to tread. But just as I began to gather the courage to speak, a ball of energy erupted from the side of the stage. A young girl, maybe 7 or 8, rushed forward, her pigtails bouncing wildly. "Wait!" she cried, her small face lit with innocence. "You're not just a girl with no shoes. You're the girl in the posters. You're going to win." The room shifted. Laughter and warmth bloomed momentarily, a bright sunbeam piercing through the charged atmosphere. I felt my heart stutter in surprise as the weight of the world momentarily lifted. "Yes," Mia cheered from the audience, her enthusiasm merging with the tiny girl's conviction, and suddenly the murmurs turned into a swell of applause. I couldn't believe it. In an instant my heart exploded with a bittersweet warmth. Before I could process what was happening, laughter and cheers erupted, filling the void that had threatened to swallow me whole just moments before. The little girl glanced back at me, her eyes shining like stars, and for the first time, I felt the intensity of my situation shift from dire to hopeful. But standing there, basking in empathy and support, I could not shake the feeling that the warmth would soon recede. Reality had a way of returning, and while I smiled back at her, I couldn't silence the haunting truth that even shining like a star could bring a suffocating darkness lurking close behind. Then came an unexpected announcement as the lead judge spoke once more, her voice cutting across the laughter. "We will now assess the stories behind each contestant. The tales we tell can shine, but they can also blind. Let's dig deeper." An icy lump formed in my throat. A spotlight now swung back to me, a heavy glow that seemed to pull at my very soul. Moments like this, the unexpected kindness, the flicker of hope from a little girl, felt beautiful, yet also terrifying. The eyes of the judges bore into me, but with my story laid bare to the world, would they still believe the girl with no shoes could win the chance of a lifetime? I could feel the crumbling edges of all I had hidden, pooling at my feet like the doubts I had always carried. What awaited me on this stage? As fear and hope collided, the question now hung in the air. How far was I willing to go for my dreams, and at what cost would they come? As the laughter danced away like the ripples of a fleeting dream, the weight of expectation returned, each heartbeat an echo of uncertainty. The audience was waiting, their faces a mosaic of intrigue, sympathy, and judgment. The mention of "dig deeper" hung in the air, sharp and unyielding, a reminder that the fragile moment of warmth was nothing more than a hazy veil over the truth I was desperate to conceal. Mia's supportive gaze still anchored me, but as the spotlight shifted and the eyes of the judges bore down, I felt myself unspool, like yarn unraveling from a frayed ball. My mind raced through potential stories, fragments of my life that could fit into the narrative I needed to create, but none felt genuine enough or compelling enough to withstand scrutiny. I opened my mouth to speak, but words eluded me like birds startled into flight. "Lily," the judge pressed, her voice softer now, almost gentle but still saturated with an unwavering timbre. "Why do you believe you deserve to win?" A question so simple yet laden with the implications of my past, my failures, and the invisible scars I bore. My heart sank. I knew my answer needed to encapsulate not just my desire to succeed, but the myriad of reasons hidden beneath the surface. Taking a deep breath, I ventured to step closer to that raw, unfiltered truth. Because I started, my voice quavering. I have known the ache of not belonging, the sting of rejection. I hesitated, shivering from the vulnerability that threatened to wash over me like a cold tide. Each word carved deeper into that wound, reminding me of moments of solitude, the years spent hiding. I grew up in a world that didn't understand me, a world that made me feel invisible. But I fought for my dreams. I fought like hell that as I spoke, I felt the grip of fear loosen just a little, enough to allow a sliver of hope to shine through. The audience listened, silence replacing the applause, and for a heartbeat, I thought I saw understanding flicker in their eyes. Yet, against that flicker flowed shadows from my past, voices of ridicule, whispers that I was simply not enough. And yet, I continued, it's not just about me. I have seen others like me. Those who struggle in silence, their dreams crushed under the weight of their circumstances. If I can win, if I can find a place where I truly belong, it won't just be for me. It will be for them too. For the first time, I felt the rawness transform into something stronger, passion. I could almost taste that bittersweet blend of emotions swirling within me. Hope danced alongside fear. And in this balancing act, I felt alive. But just then the atmosphere shifted, a crack in the newfound light. A tall figure, a judge whose expression wavered between skepticism and curiosity, interrupted. Can you prove that you're more than just a poster girl? Everyone has dreams, but this is a competition built on resilience. What if we strip away the narrative? What are you, Lily? Without the dreams, without the little girl's cheer? The cold question wrapped around me, tightening like a noose. What could I say? I felt myself sinking, the audience's expectation ballooning around me like a dam ready to burst. There it was again, the creeping shadow of doubt, of fear. I wanted to scream, to push away the lenses through which they viewed me as a mere story, a sad tale woven to tug at heartstrings. I want to be seen. I stumbled upon that truth, not just as the girl without shoes or the girl who dreams. I want to be seen as someone strong enough to fight through the darkness, brave enough to stand here despite it all. A few heads nodded, but not the chief judge. She remained inscrutable, as if dissecting every syllable. I knew then I had not moved her, and despair edged closer, dripping into the pool of hope I had summoned. The applause had faded to muffled whispers, punctuated by the occasional rustle of papers. Just as I grappled with my next breath, something extraordinary happened. The little girl who had burst onto the stage earlier appeared again, this time with a shiny red apple in her hands. She held it out to me, her face beaming. You can do it. Just like in the story. Remember? The sweet innocence cascading from her melted some of the ice forming in my chest. But as I reached for the apple, a ripple passed through the crowd, whispers segued into gasps, and a realization crash-landed in my spirit. It wasn't just an apple, it was a symbol of hope wrapped in childlike courage, and yet it also signified further scrutiny, further expectations. Before I could process what this meant, I heard voices behind me, a stirring murmur rising above the din. What's that? A voice shouted, she's supposed to be barefoot? Recognition dawned, intertwined with heartbreak. The little girl, with all her buoyant spirit, had unveiled a truth I wished to keep hidden. Everything I represented came with a narrative steeped in struggle, and still, the world didn't see it just as a story. They saw an unattainable image. My heart raced as I turned to face the crowd, the uncertainty rooted deep within. In that electrified moment, I realized this was too much. I couldn't bear the weight of my own truth unraveling before me. Not now, not ever. And statements again collided within me. Would I be seen for who I truly was, or would I always be perceived through the lens of what I lacked? I gripped the apple tightly, trembling, as the room spiraled into a thunderous crescendo of murmurs, uncertainty surging like an incoming tide. Would I find the courage to break free from my fears? Or would the shadows entwine me tighter than ever before? And as I searched the faces in the crowd, an impending realization gripped me. This was only the beginning of my deepest battle yet. The murmurs swarmed around me like a tempest, an overwhelming current of voices drowning out the remnants of my confidence. I clutched the apple closer, a small token of hope that suddenly weighed heavy in my grasp. It was as if the whole room held its breath, awaiting my next move, while my own was laborious and straining against the tide of anxiety rising within me. Just stand there and take it. You're strong, they need to see that. Emma's voice echoed softly in my mind, But I couldn't escape the stark reality. It felt like I stood on the precipice of a chasm filled with judgment and expectation. I needed to find something, anything to say, but the words had fled, and the silence felt deafening. Desperation clawed at my heart, threatening to drag me under. I thought of the little girl, the wide-eyed brightness in her expression contrasting so sharply with the fear coiling around me. She believed in me. My mind raced back to my childhood, an endless marathon of unfulfilled potential, of trying to blend in, to rise above the noise. The very fabric of my being was intertwined with the desire to be seen, to be valued as more than just the struggles I tangled with daily. Yet here I stood on the precipice of victory or despair, the enormity of it all crashing upon me like waves eroding sea cliffs. And in that tumultuous moment, a flicker of determination ignited in my heart. I am worthy, I whispered to myself, steeling my resolve. The apple, once merely a symbol of vulnerability, transformed into an emblem of my journey, a testament to every scar I bore, every attempted defeat that hadn't shattered me. As I faced the judges, I realized this wasn't solely about their perceptions anymore. It was about reclaiming my story. You want me to prove I'm more than just a poster girl? I breathed, newfound strength infusing each word. Then let me show you who I am. I am not just the little girl without shoes. I am the girl who has walked through a lifetime of storms, who has felt the sting of rejection, yet still finds joy in the smallest of things. I am the strength born from my struggles, not defined by them. A murmur swept through the crowd, the hornet's nest of intrigue buzzing with electric anticipation. Stepping forward, I claimed my space as I gathered the courage to bear those parts of myself that I had always hidden, that I had convinced myself were weaknesses. I may have started barefoot, but I've run marathons. I've stumbled, but I've risen every time. I don't just dream. I make those dreams real. My voice grew stronger as the truth poured from my heart, each word gaining depth as it echoed back in the charged atmosphere. In that moment, I felt the walls around my vulnerability trembling. The audience shifted, the air thick with the collective energy, some unsure, but many visibly moved. A woman in the front row wiped a tear from her eye, and though I didn't know her, there was an understanding blooming in me. Perhaps I wasn't alone in this fight. And just as I felt the momentum building, a loud voice cut through the tension like a knife. But what happens when the applause fades? It was the same judge, her steel gaze unwavering. What do you have left when the world turns away from your struggles? Still clutching the apple tightly, my heart began to race. And it was a valid question that struck at the core of my fear. Runs of doubt flared up, a suffocating cloak of uncertainty draping over me. The essence of my truth wavered as I searched for an answer. Could I truly be prepared for what lay beyond this stage? What if, despite my best efforts, I was left with nothing in the aftermath of failure? Before I could respond, the little girl reappeared at the edge of the stage, her small hand lifting once more. Lily, you're not alone. You have all of us. Those words washed over me, a wave of warmth amidst the cold reality pressing against my chest. In that vulnerable state, I felt held not just by the audience, but by a community that was suddenly pulling together, hearts woven into a shared tapestry of hopes and fears. I was brought back to life, every tender feeling rekindled in a light so fierce it melted away shadows. I may not have answers to everything, I said, feeling the tremors of doubt soften as I channeled a kind of resilient spirit I never knew I held in such abundance. But I choose to rise. Even if the world turns away, I know I'll still be here, standing with those who also fight, who dream, who ache. When the applause fades, I still have my voice, my passion, and the strength of this moment. The crowd erupted, a chorus of support unfurling in an avalanche of claps and cheers. I searched the judges' faces, hoping to find a glimmer of recognition, but the chief judge remained as elusive as smoke. A wave of uncertainty crashed over me anew. Had I swayed her at all, or was this celebration merely a flicker? And then, just as I stood poised on the edge of hope, a phone buzzed loudly on the front row. A woman answered it, her face blanching as she spoke urgently into the device. What do you mean she's missing? Panic laced her voice, and I felt an icy grip tighten around my heart. The moment seemed to freeze, my spirit plummeting as the ripples of confusion echoed around the room. I had no idea who was missing or the chaos just unleashed. For the first time that night, an acute awareness swept through my life was so much larger than this stage, this moment. As whispers surged through the audience and the air thickened with tension, I realized I stood on the brink of another fight, a battle that was far more significant than my own. What thread of fate was about to unravel? And what did it signify for me, standing here vulnerable and raw? Would the depths of heartache pull at me again? Or was there more a chance to emerge not just as a competitor, but as someone who genuinely mattered? The murmur of the crowd transformed into a desperate symphony. An orchestra of anxiety played upon the strings of uncertainty. My heart raced, each beat a reminder of how fragile the hope I had clung to felt now. The woman on the phone, her stranded words hung in the air like a storm, darkening the warmth of applause that swept through the hall just moments ago. Who's missing? I grappled with the question, the world outside my own struggle clawing at my consciousness. The glimmer of community I felt when the little girl spoke was now overshadowed by this new concern. The audience seemed to collectively hold its breath, the vibrations of unease pulsing through the air like an electric charge before a lightning strike. The judges exchanged glances, the smoothly polished veneer of their composure cracking. The chief judge's brow furrowed in a way that underscored how dire the situation might be, and I sensed the gravity of what was to come. I stepped forward instinctively, the apple still sturdy in my grasp, a fleeting symbol of resilience. I had just found my voice, only to feel it quaking in the face of the unknown. My eyes searched the crowd for the little girl, hoping to anchor my spiraling thoughts in her unwavering faith. Where had she gone? Without her supporting presence, I felt untethered, each flicker of courage I had ignited threatened by the waves of fear crashing against the shores of my heart. A woman from the back row rose to her feet, her face etched with concern, her voice surprisingly steady. "My daughter. She's gone to play outside," she called, and gasps echoed through the crowd as realization quickly spread. This was not a simple misunderstanding. A girl, perhaps just like me, was caught up in a world beyond our own, unseen and unheard. A chilling thought swept through me. What if I am not just fighting for my voice anymore? What if I am fighting for someone's life? The energy in the room shifted, thickening like fog, and the atmosphere transformed into an eerie battleground. "Let's stay calm, everyone," the chief judge said, attempting to usher control back into the tumult. But control felt like a distant memory, as panic began to unfurl within the audience. Murmurs erupted, spurred by urgency and fear, every whisper resonating with my own disbelief. How could I speak of dreams and strength when an innocent child was lost? "Someone needs to go look for her," I heard a young man shout from somewhere to my left, his voice cutting through the noise like a beacon. It was like a flint striking against steel. Suddenly, flames of determination ignited in several hearts scattered throughout the room as people began to congregate. A movement surged forward, a wave of solidarity. Without even a second thought, I felt my body sinking with theirs, an instinct compelling me to join in. "I'm coming with you," I called, urgency blazing through my veins. No longer merely an individual lost in my own fears, I was now part of something greater, a representation of hope woven into the fabric of humanity. In moments, I was swept into a group of people who pushed through the doors leading outside. The chill of the night air hit my face as I joined a rush of bodies, spreading out into the open space where laughter had once mingled with the sounds of joy. Streetlights flickered ominously, shadows spilling into corners where children typically frolicked. "Has anyone checked the park?" someone shouted amidst our frantic search. I had a brief flash of the little girl's smile, and my heart ached deeper at the thought of her lost. My purpose crystallized. I wasn't just here to reclaim my own narrative, I was here to help someone who needed it far more than I did. Time seemed suspended as we scoured every corner, calling her name into the darkness, our voices forming a symphonic cadence of desperation woven with hope. The group expanded, each person adding their own layers of concern, but there was also kindness flourishing amidst the chaos. Someone was holding my hand, squeezing it tight in silent assurance. With each passing moment, this scene became a reminder of all we could be united even in the face of fear. And then, lingering just beyond the park's edge, a collective gasp broke the air. A familiar figure stood silhouetted against the glow of a street lamp, small and fragile yet radiant in her innocence. The little girl, her auburn hair catching the light as she stared back at us, an expression of bewilderment mixed with wonder across her face. The relief surged through me like a wave crashing onto the shore, obliterating the tension that had coiled tightly around my chest. The crowd rushed closer, heartbeats synchronized in a melody of relief. I lunged forward with a fierce rush of love and protectiveness, enveloping her in my arms, holding her as if I could anchor her to me forever. Lily? The soft murmur escaped her lips, and for an instant, the world shrank to just us. I wanted to see the stars. She pointed upwards and I lifted my gaze, momentarily forgetting the weight of my own struggles, but beneath that moment of joy, there came a surge of realization, an awareness that this encounter was a chapter unrevealed, fragile and pregnant with possibility. The night was far from over, and even amidst the flickering stars, shadows still lingered. With each heartbeat I could sense that our plight, woven with hope and light, held mysteries that had yet to unfold. As we pulled away, the weight of the moment settled back into place. I saw the chief judge watching, her expression inscrutable. My heart sank anew. What remained unspoken in the air? Had this act of courage solidified my place in the story, or had I merely chased after a fleeting moment of connection? And deep down I understood this. I was still standing at the cliff's edge, my journey unfolding one nuanced step at a time, filled with challenges yet unseen. Would I have the strength to embrace the next chapter, one filled with hope and unanticipated twists, or would I falter beneath the weight of it all? The rush of relief began to wane as the weight of reality settled back over me. Dense and pressing. Lily's bright eyes held the cosmos in them. Yet I felt the shadows creeping closer. The crowd around us erupted into a flurry of joy, exclamations of relief and comfort echoing into the starry night. Yet all I could perceive were the unsteady beats of my heart, echoing with unanswered questions. Why did you wander off? I asked gently, kneeling before Lily, cradling her small shoulders in my hands. The park isn't safe at night. I wanted to find the stars, she replied, the innocence in her voice mixing with a hint of defiance. They shine brighter away from all the noise. I held her gaze, my thoughts tangled in her simplicity. She had stepped beyond the cacophony of our fears, seeking solace in the quiet of the night. How could I put into words the storm brewing in me, the conflict between my need to protect and her need for freedom? But Lily, I urged, what if you couldn't find your way back? As if by divine intervention, a soft hand gripped my shoulder. I turned to see the chief judge standing behind me, her expression softened by genuine concern. You both were quite brave in your own ways, she said, her voice steady. But bravery must also tread carefully. It's vital to remember that vulnerability is not weakness. It's a part of navigating this world together. Her words stirred something deep within me. Courage wasn't merely about fearlessness. It was entwined with care and responsibility, acknowledging our own fragility, while still daring to connect with others. In that moment I felt a renewed sense of purpose shaping my narrative. But even as clarity washed over me, the truth was there. Lurking beneath the surface, this night would be a turning point in ways I had not anticipated. I ushered Lily back towards the auditorium, a soft hand in mine, but as the gathering mournfully shuffled back toward the safety of familiar walls, unease loomed. My heart raced, not just for the relief of finding her but also for what lay ahead, an unresolved tension mixed with fear, and an unspoken challenge that swirled in the air, heavier than before. When we reached the doors of the auditorium, a figure was waiting for us, the woman who'd shouted at the beginning, the one who'd revealed Lily's disappearance. Her face was pale, drawn tight with worry. I'm so sorry for what happened, she said, tears glimmering in her eyes. I've been so lost lately, and I thought I was losing her too. Before I could respond, another voice cut through, sharper and more accusatory. You don't even watch her. You let her run wild. The accusation hung heavily. The atmosphere shifted again to a boiling point. The community we had formed moments ago began to shatter as guilt and blame crept into the cracks. I felt myself instinctively stepping between the mother and the interrupter. Enough, I declared, my voice reverberating a blend of fear, anger, and an aching sense of unity. She's here now. Let's focus on that. But moments later, I caught the disapproving gaze of the chief judge once more, and it felt like judgment itself. This was not just about a little girl wanting to reach for the stars. It was about my own fight to keep the light alive amidst shadows and doubt, and I was terrified that I was not enough to hold it all together. Suddenly, a commotion arose in the back of the auditorium. A man burst through the doors, breathless, his frayed expression trembling with urgency. We have a bigger problem, he bellowed, and my heart plunged into the depths of my stomach. What is it? I shouted back, the fear clawing at my throat. There's been an accident over on Elm Street. They're saying a child was, his words faltered, caught in the severe tension of the room, and collective gasps enveloped us again. But this time different, a ripple of panic surged through the crowd. "We need to help." Lily clutched my hand tighter, her little fingers trembling. It struck me then, in a moment eclipsed by urgency, we were standing on the precipice of choice again. A choice between braving the unknown or faltering under its weight. "Let's go," I said, the words escaping me before I could hold them back. The urgency in my veins rose once more, entwining with the bravery building in my heart. The stakes had been raised, and I was no longer just searching for my place in the story. I was preparing to dive headlong into an uncharted sea of adversity, hoping to tease a flicker of light from the edges of chaos. With the hall bursting into motion, an unexpected group of volunteers rallied, fueled by compassion and fear alike. I couldn't help but feel as though this was an opportunity to weave together the fragments of our stories, the fragility of connection igniting a collective determination that might lead us all toward the light. But in that tumultuous spark of hope clustered fear, too, fear of the unknown, of what awaited us beyond the auditorium doors. As we surged forward, bravely embracing the unfolding darkness, I understood that our paths were intertwined, and with every step we took, we carried each other's hopes and shadows forward into a world that still felt steeped in uncertainty. And in the fleeting silence before the storm, one question burned brighter than the stars. How many more lives would we two share Losi on this journey? As our hastened steps echoed through the dimly lit streets, a distinct heaviness settled over the air, thick with apprehension. I led Lily by the hand, my heart a restless drum as my thoughts cascaded into a whirlwind. What awaited us at Elm Street hung heavily in the corners of my mind, each step drawing us ever closer to the unknown. The faces of my neighbors flashed before me, their expressions laced with burgeoning fear, and I knew my own anxieties mirrored theirs. The streetlights flickered like wounded stars, casting long shadows that stretched and yawned ahead of us. Each time they dimmed, I tightened my grip on Lily's hand, feeling desperately that she was both my anchor and my compass. The clamor of voices below blended into a chorus of urgency, a chant rising and falling with the swell of the crowd. We were mere threads woven into a tapestry of uncertainty as we approached the intersection of Elm Street. A suffocating fog swept over us, wrapping itself around each word spoken. "Clear the area!" shouted a uniformed officer as he scanned the crowd, his voice authoritative yet trembling. "We need to keep a path open for the ambulance." My breath hitched as the reality of the situation broke free. Slanting my head to observe, I caught sight of the crushed metal of a bicycle, glinting ominously under the pale glow of the streetlight. Panic turned my stomach, the anxiety of our earlier encounter at the auditorium returning tenfold. I found myself grappling with a surge of questions. Who was the child? Were they okay? Each hammering against my consciousness like unyielding waves against a crumbling shore. Around us, I saw the volunteers band together, unity igniting a spark in some as they formed makeshift clusters, ready to assist where they could. Yet the fear still lurked, lurking just beneath the surface of resilience. I watched as a woman knelt beside the bike, her hands trembling as she reached out, fingers gingerly brushing over the scattered belongings: a colorful helmet, a red shoe, a favorite teddy bear. The sorrow etched on her face felt palpable. An unspoken bond formed in shared grief, and in that instant, I felt an unexpected warmth wash over me, a fleeting reminder that amidst chaos and despair, we were capable of kindness. One man stepped forward, cradling a child's shoe in his hands and calling out, "Do we have any parents here? Can anyone help us make sure we find who this belongs to?" Just then the crowd swelled with voices, people clamoring for information. Whispers of the accident danced in the charged air like sparks, igniting hope and dread in equal measure. Grief-stricken families exchanged knowing glances, some instinctively gathering tighter in their embrace, while others rushed to offer support, as though each gesture could mend the invisible wounds that unfolded before us. "Stay close, Lily," I murmured, casting a protective glance at her. She had gone quiet, her small face reflecting the somber scene before us. "Look for someone to help." As I moved deeper into the thrumming pulse of the crowd, I felt a tremor in my heartbeat, a budding fear coiling itself tighter around me. What if the child didn't survive? What if I felt burdened under the weight of loss yet again? Lily, sensing the shift in my resolve, squeezed my hand. "We can help, right?" she asked, her voice tinged with innocence yet imbued with conviction. "Yes," I whispered through gritted teeth. "We will." But even as I spoke those words, an unquenchable dread churned within, uncertain of what we would truly face. Suddenly, as if the universe had acknowledged my silent prayers, a narrow beam of light cut through the pervasive fog. An ambulance arrived, the siren fading into the chaos. Quickly, the paramedics ascended from the vehicle, their practiced movements eliciting a flicker of hope. Undeterred by the overwhelming atmosphere, they summoned calm amidst the storm, an oasis amid despair. I felt a flicker of gratitude rise as they swooped into action, their presence embodying what so many of us desperately needed at that moment: the chance to believe in something brighter. Here, among the sorrow, was the possibility of healing, of shared humanity igniting resilience. I exchanged glances with the woman with the scattered belongings, barely registering her nod of understanding as we collectively found solace in that singular moment of hope. But as I turned back to Lily, wanting to assure her, my breath caught at the sight before me, a woman charging toward the paramedics, wailing in anguish. The sheer depth of despair radiated from her like heat. She spotted the bicycle, and then her eyes met mine, filled with raw recognition. "That's my son. Where is he?" The urgency prickled my skin. Panic lodged itself in my throat once more as I watched her succumb to despair, collapsing to the ground. "Help her," I said instinctively to Lily, moving them closer to the gathered crowd. But my own heart raced, fast, an uncertain tempest brewing yet again. What if I had misstepped in bringing Lily here? What if I was placing her safety at risk in this fervor of turmoil? "Please, I need someone to find him," the woman cried, her anguish seeping into the very fabric of the night. The air was heavy with dread as whispers of fear morphed into cries of hope. "We're here." "Well, find him," the paramedics soothed as the weight of our frantic gathering shifted toward actively supporting her anguish. In that pivotal moment, my heart sank anew, each beat drowning in the shadows of uncertainty. As we clung to the raw fragility of our shared experiences, I understood that this was far from over. An unrelenting storm swept through our stories, intertwining them within a complex tapestry of strength and sorrow. And fundamentally, I realized, what had begun as a night to find Lily had burrowed deeper into something more, a pursuit of hope entwined with despair. Eclipsed by new fears, the flames of purpose flickered warningly. With every glance back toward the swelling crowd, I braced myself for the aftermath that awaited, zone that bore the vestiges of a child lost, and the stories we had yet to uncover. As we faced that inescapable uncertainty together, mothers, fathers, children, and even strangers, we prepared to forge an unbreakable connection in the hours ahead. But amidst the confusion, a question began to fester. Would we be able to withstand the storm, or would the tide of loss draw us under before we could find our way back to the light? The night air buzzed with tension and sorrow, pressing against my chest like a weight I couldn't shake. In the distance, I could hear the sirens fade, replaced by the cacophony of anxious voices, whispers of speculation weaving through the crowd. Lily's small hand in mine was the only lifeline I felt tethered to in amidst the chaos, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I might lead her into deeper shadows. "Let's help that lady," Lily urged, her eyes wide and pleading as we watched the train of emotions play out before us. There was a spark of determination there, and I marveled at how even in the worst of moments, my daughter held on to kindness like a fallen star. "Yes, let's," I agreed, though my heart was a storm of conflicting emotions. Childlike hope tangled with the raw edge of anxiety, creating a chasm I struggled to navigate. We moved closer to where the anguished mother knelt among the scattered remnants of her son's joy, each item a fragment of childhood innocence that had been so brutally interrupted. I knelt alongside a few volunteers, our presence a silent offer of support. There was no template for how to handle such grief, no manual that told us the right things to say or do. Instead, we merely offered our closeness, a gentle reminder that she was not alone in this darkness. "Can I help?" Lily's voice reached out to the woman, a soft offer in the storm. It was an incredible thing to witness my daughter instructing her heart to reach out when all around us, adults, were frozen in fear, unable to express what lay within. Startled by the unexpected tenderness, the woman turned her tear-streaked face toward Lily. There was a fleeting moment where it appeared as if time hung suspended, her expression wavering between grief and the fragile threads of hope that an innocent heart could extend. "Thank you, sweet girl," she whispered, her voice cracking. "But I don't even know where he is." Before she could spiral deeper into despair, a paramedic leaned down, his face kind and steady. "We've got people searching, ma'am." "Well, find your son." But as the words settled within the group, I couldn't help but feel the weight of despair creeping back in. The fear gnawed at me each second felt like an eternity, and every lingering heartbeat resonated with unspoken potential for loss. I turned to look at Lily, her face illuminating the faintest glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Maybe we can go check down by the park, she suggested quietly, as if conjuring something divine through sheer innocence. He might be playing hide and seek. Against my better judgment, I felt something shift within me. Her childlike perspective poured a sense of possibility into the dark, and I knew we had to follow that spark, even if it felt reckless. But as we stepped away, a gut-wrenching realization dawned upon me. Didn't want to leave this grieving mother behind, to navigate the darkness alone. Lily, I whispered urgently, kneeling to her level. We can't just run off. We need to stay with her. Suddenly, the tumult of the crowd surged around us, bodies pushing and swelling like an angry tide. I felt my anxiety spike as I turned to glance at the mother again. But in that moment of distraction, someone broke through. It was a small figure darting toward the paramedics like a beam of vibrant sunlight breaking through the storm clouds. A little girl, barefoot and wide-eyed, stood just beyond the chaos, clutching a stuffed bunny that seemed far too large for her. She must have been no older than 5. The crowd fell silent. The air shifted, transforming from fear to something tangible, something hopeful. My heart raced again, heavy with disbelief. The little girl raised her voice, trembling yet strong. I found him. I found him. Gasping, I turned back to the grieving mother. Her gaze snapped to the newcomer, eyes widening in disbelief as hope threaded its way through the previously choked despair. The paramedics rushed toward the girl. What do you mean? One yelled, a mixture of urgency and caution punctuating their words. He's over there. The girl pointed toward the park, her small finger outstretched in a show of unwavering determination. He was scared, but I told him to come with me. Hope erupted like flames in the darkness. The mother scrambled to her feet, a whirlwind of raw emotion coursing through her as she dashed in the direction the little girl had pointed. I looked down at Lily, who was smiling wider than I'd seen in a long time. She was a reflection of pure belief in humanity at that moment, a tender emblem of strength. As the crowd surged forward, many following the mother toward the park, I hesitated. Should we venture too? Or would this chaotic wave wash away the fragile hope we had just captured? Mom, can we go with them? Lily's voice pierced through my storm of thoughts. I could see the urgency within her. It mirrored my own desire to protect that woman's heart, to cradle her despair even in the faint possibility of hope. Yes, I replied, but the answer felt flimsy against the unknowns ahead. As we raced alongside the crowd, I couldn't shake the sense of turmoil. Out of nowhere, the very ground seemed to shift beneath us when another loud wail pierced the air, the anguished cry of the mother, now mingling with the pastel emotions of relief and dread. Where is he? Where is my son? Time stretched impossibly as we followed the sounds, and I caught sight of the horizon just being colored by dawn's first light. A new day was creeping in, a stark reminder of all that was lost but also a treasure of potential. Would this woman find her child? Would they escape this nightmarish turmoil? Or would the dawn become just another testament to an unbearable loss? My heart raced, alternating between optimism and fear, as I clung to Lily's hand, moving forward into uncertainty, navigating the intersection of hope, despair, and the lingering shadows of our very human fragility. The sun broke just over the horizon, sending blushes of orange and pink splashing across the sky, as if the dawn itself was trying to paint over the night's anguish. Yet as beautiful as it was, the light felt foreign, intrusive, disrupting the raw reality that enveloped us. I could see the crowd swell ahead, fast-paced and electric, my heart hammering against my ribcage as we rushed toward them. Mom, look! Lily tugged at my hand, her excitement palpable as she pointed to the little girl, now surrounded by paramedics, who knelt on the ground, hopefully waiting for a response. I could see how she clutched her stuffed bunny tightly, her small frame a portrait of innocence amid the grim scene. We reached the huddle just as a paramedic spoke words that seemed to echo off the trees like haunting reminders of the horrors of the night. Can you tell us what he looks like? He asked the little girl, his voice steady, eyes sharp with focus even amidst the emotion swirling around us. He's got curly hair and a blue shirt. Oh, and he loves dinosaurs, the girl exclaimed, her voice a fragile melody steadying on the thread of hope. He was scared, but I told him I wouldn't let him be alone. Each word felt like a bomb, coating the surrounding sorrow with the tender touch of connection. I felt a swell of gratitude for this girl barefoot and brave as she took it upon herself to reach out for someone who was lost. It struck me then just how powerful a child's influence could be. The world may attempt to crush their spirits with darkness, but in such desolation, they found ways to bloom. But doubt clawed back at me. What if the boy wasn't found? What if the sun rose early just to watch another heartbreak? The heights of my inner turmoil surprised me. It felt as though I was getting swept along, unable to hold on, just like the winds carried away the last remnants of night across the scene. The anguished mother navigated through the throng of bodies with ferocity despite her trembling legs. I saw her sweat-drenched hair clinging to her pale forehead, and my heart ached painfully as she called out for her son. Each word a tortured arrow shot into the thickening air. Is it possible? I asked, half to myself as I clenched Lily's hand instinctively tighter. Can hope coexist with despair? Lily's small fingers squeezed back, as if she could sense the storm inside me. It is, she affirmed, her gaze steady, piercing through my turmoil. Mom shall find him. I just know it. Such unwavering belief in the face of uncertainty inspired a flicker of courage within me, chasing the shadows away just enough to let a dawn of hope settle inside. What I hadn't prepared for, though, was how the crowd had been slowly drawn to the girl. Like moths to a flame they gathered, parting to allow the paramedics space as whispers of her bravery spread through them like wildfire. In that moment I saw people transforming, fear dissipating, sorrow shifting to solidarity, the collective spirit of humanity amplified under the wake of this small yet monumental. As the tension thickened, the paramedics took action. They dashed toward the little girl, and my heart skipped as she pointed back down the path, her eyes wide with determination. He went that way. I know he did. I felt the air around me compress with a piercing intensity, every heartbeat fueling a collective heartbeat of hope and fear. For one shimmering moment, we were all bound by a single purpose, the desire to find that boy and restore light to his mother's world. But just as quickly shadows loomed anew. The small girl turned toward the mother in a tender gesture and spoke. Your son is brave just like me. I know he's okay. Yet uncertainty flooded the mother's eyes, a vortex of despair threatening to swallow her whole. As we all fell silent, amidst the chaos, I became acutely aware of Lily's stillness beside me. She must have sensed my apprehension, drawing a deeper breath as if receiving strength from the collective hope surrounding us. Mom, she whispered, her voice soft yet firm. Can we believe together? Before I could respond, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, jangling through the moment like an intrusive alarm. My heart sank, the sound pulling me back to reality, a reminder of the unfinished chaos that lay in my own life beyond this scene. I pulled it out, watching as the name on the screen sent a chill rippling through me. It was Michael. Why now? My pulse quickened as anxiety bubbled up within me, fighting with the growing hope that narrowly pressed itself into my heart. The boy's fate hung in the air, and so did my own unresolved fears. Should I answer? What if it was something critical? Or would it shatter this fragile moment? As I hesitated, something shifted in the distancia, a wailing siren growing increasingly closer. Multiple voices arose as if the universe itself was heaving in anticipation. I looked down at Lily, her trusting eyes asking for guidance, waiting for me to make a decision as the rest of the world faded into a blur. Yet as I looked up toward the commotion, I saw something shifting among the crowd, a paramedic emerging with a figure beside him, both clad in measured urgency. Was that a child's silhouette? They were approaching rapidly, but the panic racing through my chest conflated hope and fear into an unrecognizable cacophony. In that moment, every heartbeat and breath seemed to culminate into a single question. Would this be the moment that would either bury us deeper into sorrow or rise us to the precipice of joy? And before I could find the words to comfort my daughter, before I could pull the weight of anxiety off my chest, the figure came into view, hair wild in the wind and future still unwritten. And just as quickly the realization hit me. Would this reunion heal the wounds, or would it open new ones, dragging me back into my own heartache? The ground beneath us trembled, an unsettling prelude to the potential devastation waiting just beyond the surface. Oh, I breathed, grasping tightly to Lily as I stumbled closer. For now, we were following the light, and I could only hope that it wouldn't lead us further into shadow. As the crowd parted with a collective gasp, the words I had been holding slipped out just beyond the tide of emotions surging all around me. Please let it be him. With every step the paramedic took forward, I could feel my heart racing, caught between a fragile hope that coiled lovingly around my soul, and a gnawing fear that threatened to unravel everything I had come to believe. And then there he was. A small boy wrapped in a blanket, his face smudged with dirt, but Olivia thanked the good heavens he was alive. Relief crashed over me like a waterfall, fogging the edges of my vision. The moment unfolded in vivid hues, a stark contrast against the black and white struggle painted across my heart in the wake of loss. The mother surged forward, collapsing onto her knees before her son, her cries tearing through the air with a haunting beauty. James! Oh, my sweet boy! It was there in her joy, and in the rawness of her emotion, that I saw my own struggles reflected in this moment. The layered tapestry of human experience swirling with fear, yearning, and heartbreak. Lily tugged at my hand, her face aglow as she whispered urgently, "Mom, can we go closer?" I nodded, overwhelmed by the improbable transformation that had swept over the crowd. This wasn't just the reunion of a mother and child. It felt like a reawakening, a gentle reminder that kindness, hope, and community could envelope even the darkest of nights. As we made our way to the boy and his mother, something flickered through me, a realization that engulfed every corner of my heart. I hadn't just come here for the competition or to prove my worth. I was here to be part of something immensely larger than myself, a thread in the grand tapestry of interconnected lives. How many more stories could we rally around? How many more struggles could we set alight with the fierce warmth of human connection? "I love you, James," the mother murmured, her words wrapping around him like a protective cocoon. In that moment I found myself taking a deep breath, drawing in strength from the simple yet powerful love that bound them. My own heart swelled at the sight, every ache and uncertainty soothing for the first time in too long. I turned to Lily, eyes teeming with unshed tears. "This is true strength," I whispered, finding light in our darkest moments. Suddenly, the boy lifted his head, scanning the crowd until his eyes landed on Lily and me. Caught off guard, I could barely gather my thoughts as he grinned in unfiltered joy that melted away the shadows tainting the edges of this night. "You helped me." His voice rang out, full of life. "You believed." The word struck me like a lightning bolt, fresh and hopeful, and the glow of it penetrated the space around us, lingering in the air like confetti spiraling from the sky. In that shared moment of connection, I handed him Lily's beloved stuffed bunny, which she had insisted on bringing along. "You'll be a brave knight now," I said, my voice cracking slightly under the weight of emotions. "Keep it close." The boy hugged the bunny tightly, and just like that, hope flickered brightly among us, illuminating the once dark corners. I saw the worry lines on the mother's face slowly unfurl, yielding to a radiant warmth that only the bonds of love can weave. Yet amidst the burgeoning joy, I couldn't shake the surge of raw vulnerability that lay beneath the surface. The iceberg of shadows I had carried, thick with insecurities and fears, began to crumble as if melted by the intensity of our shared humanity. As I began to step forward closer to the family, my own heart throbbed fiercely with the realization that I wasn't just witnessing this reunion, I was being reborn amid the narrative, discovering a renewed sense of purpose. And just when I thought I had gained clarity, the shout of a familiar voice sliced through the crowd. "Lily!" It was Michael, me husband, the man I lost connection with amid the echoes of our past. Hadn't he said one day he would show up when I least expected it? The universe spun as I turned toward him, a cascade of emotions flooding my heart. Yet as we locked eyes, I found not confusion or resentment but a gentle reminder that while dark shadows may cast over our paths, love had a way of guiding us back home when we needed it most. In an instant, everything shattered and reformed into something more beautiful, a mosaic woven with every joy, every wound that had bled into the fabric of my story. "Oh, Michael," I gasped, an unexpected wave of tears spilling down my cheeks. Without hesitation, he reached out, drawing us both into his embrace, a fortified shield against the night. As I held both my children close beneath those fading stars, I realized that life, in all its chaotic beauty, was a reminder that we aren't meant to walk our paths alone. We will stumble, fall, and sometimes lose our way, but it is the connections we forge that guide us back to the light. Embracing the warmth of our reunion, I whispered to Lily as I held her tight, "This is not just about winning, my love. It's about finding our place within our stories, weaving hopes into the fabric of this world." As applause echoed in the distance, mingling with the loveliest sounds of shared laughter and budding community. I turned to glance up at the sprawling sky, its infinite depths twinkling like diamonds. And in that moment of connection, heavy yet sacred, I felt the whispers of all the lives intertwined off every soul grappling with their own struggles. So I spoke into the symphony of the night, my voice rising with determination. We will continue to rise from the darkest of moments. We will grow our roots deeper into the earth, nurturing dreams while embracing one another. May love be our compass as we navigate this journey together. As the shadows of the past gently slipped away, a tapestry of memories washed over my heart, rich with warmth, laced with love, igniting the soul with purpose. As I realized this was our moment. Perhaps all along this journey, each trial I faced had been building toward this beautiful sanctuary of connection, the real prize in this life. As the sun glanced playfully over the horizon, I smiled. The world would see a girl with no shoes but standing amidst the threads of countless stories, weighted by love, carving out our destinies together. And in that moment I understood. The stories we weave shape who we are and how we carry each other onward into every tomorrow. Together we can navigate any storm, I murmured, cradling the warmth of my children close. And in my heart I carried the lesson learned. Some battles may seem insurmountable, but when we reach out and connect, we find resilience beyond our wildest dreams. Together, always. And as the light broke free from the darkness, so too did we, chorus of hope rising to touch the stars.